Let's head to Israel, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio are currently addressing the press.
That future cannot begin until Hamas is eliminated. That better future and that kind of peace is not even possible until the hostages are released, all of them, every single one. And so that's what we continue to be focused on. That's what the President wants to see happen, and that's what you can count on our unwavering support and commitment to see come to fruition.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Secretary, do you think that it's possible to military dismantle? Thank you.
Can you just state your name and the outfit you're from?
Yeah, sure. Hi.
Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from Israel.
Okay.
My name is Liza Rozovsky. I'm from Haaretz. And I want to ask if you still think that the military dismantlement of Hamas is possible.
Well, Hamas can surrender tonight if they want, lay down their weapons. The problem is they're a terrorist group, a barbaric group, whose stated mission is the destruction of the Jewish state, so we're not counting on that from happening. Look, I think we would all, every single person I know, I don't know of anyone who would not rather see a negotiated settlement in which Hamas agrees to no longer be a terrorist group, lay down their arms, free the hostages, by the way, not just the hostages that they're holding from Israel, but frankly, the people of Gaza that they're also holding hostage as human shields. So that would be the ideal outcome, one we would all like to see. It's one that's been worked on. But I think we have to be prepared for the fact that savage, terrorists don't normally agree to things like that. But we'll continue to pursue that route. It's the ideal outcome, but it may require, ultimately, a concise military operation to eliminate them. We have to remember who we're dealing with here, and that is a group of people that have dedicated their lives to violence and barbarism. And when you're confronting that hard reality, as much as we may wish that there be a sort of a peaceful diplomatic way to end it, and we'll continue to explore and be dedicated to it, we also have to be prepared for the possibility that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, go ahead.
איתמר אייכנר, ynet וידיעות אחרונות. מר נתניהו, האם ישראל עדכנה את ארצות הברית לפני המתקפה בדוחה? And a question to Secretary Rubio. Did you ask Israel not to advance with its military maneuver in Gaza and not to repeat of attack in Qatar?
Well, I've said repeatedly that Israel's decision to act against the Hamas terrorist leadership in Qatar was a wholly independent decision by Israel. It was a decision taken by me and our top security force chiefs. It was conducted by us, and we assumed full responsibility for it because we believe that terrorists should not be given a haven, and the people who planned the worst massacre of the Jewish people since the Holocaust cannot have immunity. So we did it on our own, period.
All I would add is that we are focused on what happens now, what happens next, what role can Qatar play possibly in reaching an outcome here that leads not just to the end of this hostilities, not just to the release of all of the hostages, both living and deceased, not just the disarmament and elimination of Hamas, but also a better future for the people of Gaza, which isn't possible as long as Hamas exists, which isn't possible as long as 48 hostages are being held. And so we're going to continue to encourage Qatar to play a constructive role in that regard. We're focused because at the end of the day, no matter what has happened, these fundamentals still remain. There is still a Hamas, there is still 48 hostages, and there is still a war going on. And all of these things standing in the way of a better future for the people of Gaza and a peaceful end to what's happening now. So we're going to remain focused on what we can do next.
Go ahead.
Can I ask, Mr. Secretary? Sorry.
You can ask anything, but there's order. Go ahead.
הנשיא טראמפ הביע את דאגתו הנשיא טראמפ הביע את דאגתו בעקבות רצח צ'רלי קירק שם בארצות הברית מארגונים רדיקליים בשמאל שמלבים שנאה וחותרים תחת הדמוקרטיה. האם הנושא הזה גם היה חלק מהשיחות ביניכם על אולי שיתוף פעולה נגד ארגונים כאלה כדי למנוע חלילה רצח פוליטי גם כאן בישראל?
Well, the question was about the ramifications of the barbaric murder of Charlie Kirk. So first let me say Charlie Kirk was a tremendous friend of Israel. And he believed and discussed with me how to defend Israel, how to defend Western civilization. He actually wrote a detailed memorandum suggesting how we should do that. He saw our battle as a common one for our common values and our common freedom. He also believed in having free discourse. And he was I think, a great American patriot, a believer in the freedom and liberties that America gave to the world, and a believer in the common foundation of our civilization, which he attached to this city, this country, this land. He was struck down. I think the most important thing is to make sure that his legacy isn't struck down, that it continues to live. Now, you know, some people are irreplaceable. Charlie was 31 years old. My own brother was 30 years old when he fell in the rescue of hostages in Entebbe. And, you know, some of these people come once in a century. But it's their legacy that has to live on. So we're committed, I'm committed, and I know the President Trump is committed, and I'm sure that's true of Secretary of State Marco Rubio, to make sure that that legacy lives on. How to address the threats is what you're saying. How do you actually address the threats of the poisonous incitement of the people who don't believe in free speech, who believe in the imposition of their views on others, who speak of democracy but actually want to trample democracy into the dust? How to deal with that? I think it's a common problem. I think the world right now, the Western world, America, Israel, are being challenged by extraordinary violence from political opponents within the countries. Extraordinary violence. President Trump has, there's been 2 attempted assassinations on him. 1 nearly succeeded. I've been targeted myself with death threats, which are pretty much daily. My family is targeted. And so are ministers and public figures. They're harassed, they're threatened in Israel and in America. And this is a challenge to our democracy. Democracy is supposed to be the nonviolent resolution of conflict within a society. Nonviolent resolution. The decisions are made not by bullets, but by ballots. And these people increasingly are more and more violent. And the more they speak of democracy, the more they threaten it. They basically say that the greatest danger to democracy is democracy. You're not going to have the rabble decide. I mean, these people who go to the polls, who are they? We're the enlightened ones. We're raised above that. That's the true democracy. The true democracy is to ensure that there is no democracy. And there's double talk. There's the use of words that mean entirely different things. And that certainly won't derail us, but I'm sure that we should take all the actions independently and jointly to protect our liberties, our way of life, our democracies.
Well, a couple points on, I think it's horrifying to see any human being executed before the entire world because of the social media. It was a particularly difficult week this week in the White House and in Washington because Charlie Kirk wasn't just someone who supported the president. He wasn't just someone that we were aware of. He was a personal friend to a lot of people in that White House. The president, to the vice president, to multiple people. It was a combination, you know, political assassination, but also death in the family type event. And it was shocking to a lot of people to see. Apart from the tragedy of it for him and for his family and for the nation, really, is the irony. Charlie was one of the few people out there that was actually engaging in what we need more of, and that is debate and conversation among people with strong disagreements. People know Charlie Kirk because of his role on campuses. He would go on college campuses, and he would actively seek out and invite people who strongly disagreed with him to come to the microphone and engage in a back and forth. The alternative to the back and forth is to just attack each other. It's very easy to just do podcasts and just do interviews and give speeches where you attack the other side. It's much harder to engage people whose views are diametrically opposed to yours and engage them in a debate. And he did that. But he didn't just do that on college campuses, because that's what he was best known for. He did that online as well. Charlie was a frequent guest on the podcasts and on the shows of people who he did not agree with. And he had guests on his show that he did not agree with. He was actually a guest on Gavin Newsom's podcast. and engaged in debate with the Young Turks, and as well as going around the world engaging in some of these lecture series with people from the other side, and I don't even say the other side of the aisle, other side of ideological divides, because sometimes it wasn't just partisan. And to see someone who was engaged in what we need more of, assassinated in the process of doing exactly that. Because that's where he was assassinated. He was assassinated in the middle of that kind of discourse. I think was an effort not simply to silence Charlie's voice, but I think is an effort to intimidate and silence that kind of effort in America. And I think for the world to engage in that kind of discourse with people you disagree with. And once a society loses the ability of people with strong disagreements to engage in discourse, then the only option you're left with is either silence or violence, neither one of which is acceptable. Both are very destructive.
Let's take from the foreign press. Let's
Thank you. Tom Bateman from BBC News. First of all, Mr. Secretary, you have very vocal anger from Arab countries, your Gulf allies, over the Israeli strike last week, accusing Israel of barbarism in their words. Isn't this a crisis now for American diplomacy? And how are you going to assure your Gulf allies, as the President says, that this won't happen again? And Mr. Prime Minister, can you give us your assessment of whether last week's attack did actually kill any of the Hamas leadership in the building? And in Gaza City, with tower blocks being destroyed every day, dozens dead daily, are you simply using the civilian population of Gaza as a means to apply pressure on Hamas?
Well, let me begin with a question you asked me, and that is, we have strong relationships with our Gulf allies. We work very closely with them on a number of things. We've been engaged with them. We've been engaged with them consistently before what happened and after what happened. And ultimately, the point we will make to everybody is that some fundamentals still remain that have to be addressed, irrespective of what has occurred. The reality of it is we still have 48 hostages. We still have a Hamas that is not only holding 48 hostages, they're holding Gaza hostage, and they're using civilians as human shields. There's still a dangerous element, and as long as they exist, as long as they're around, there will be no peace in this region, because they are not agents of peace, they are agents of barbarism. And it's still a fundamental fact that the people of Gaza deserve a better future, a future which is not possible until the hostages are all released and Hamas no longer exists. All these fundamentals still exist. They all still have to be addressed. And that's what we're going to remain focused on as we engage with our allies in the Gulf, is how can we continue to work together to address those three things, which we think are pillars. Solving those are pillars of the broader construct I think all of us hope for the region.